Hi, everyone. I'm Pamela Stroko, and I'd like to welcome you all to the HR Tech Talk sponsored by the analyst firm 360 Insights. I'm a director and principal analyst at 360, and I'm so excited to welcome all of you today to hear about how we can change the behaviors of the disconnected workforce. And so we're going to be talking about how connection is the key to exceptional business performance. And joining me today is Tim Bristow, who's the Chief Operating Officer of Pro Habits. And what I really like about Pro Habits, as I looked at its solution and how it helps organizations, is it is a real solution with measurable results on how we can connect people to the work that they're doing, connect people to the organization, create belonging, improve retention by using a simple tool and a simple practice that has powerful results. So Tim, why don't you start telling us about how Pro Habits got started and what you're trying to do in the workforce today?
Thanks, Pamela. You're absolutely right. Today's workforce is extremely disconnected. And I think that's really exacerbated by two factors. One, of course, this shift towards hybrid/remote. There's no longer the water cooler, the cohabitation of the workspace where connection just naturally did come to play and come to happen. And then two, there's a cultural move towards this distrust in institutions, right? And so with that, the individuals who work for these large enterprises, they feel like cogs in a machine. And there's often such a lack of connection to what do I do day in and day out? And how does that actually connect to and contribute to the value my organization's bringing and our ability to achieve our strategic goals? And so as we thought through how do we address this connection, we came to a realization that we didn't need to reinvent the wheel. And what we did is we tried to learn from marketers.
And I like that because what we know marketers do is they know how to engage an audience. They know how to engage a marketplace. And tell me more about how the marketing approach helps create better performance at the individual level and at the organization level.
100%. So as I said, we didn't want to reinvent the wheel. And so what we did is we tried to take the same tools, technologies, and really discipline that marketers have and to help to create, in their case, connections between the consumer and the brands they represent, and in our case, between employees and the organizations they work for. And so what we came to is a very simple solution, which is let's run employee campaigns. The same way marketers run campaigns externally, let's run campaigns internally.
So, tell me about, I've read a bit about some of the things your customers and clients are working on, but tell me about the campaigns and how they're working and the results that they're seeing. Like, tell me what, basically, I want to know what they're doing and how it's working.
Absolutely. And maybe one thing I want to highlight about campaigns and sort of how we think about structuring them
Hmm.
is they are designed to do two things. One, to connect input to output.
Hmm.
So to connect campaigns to the actual results and objectives that matter to the business. And two, to create signal through noise. So
Hmm.
we think about the structure of a campaign. We have an objective. What are we trying to achieve as an organization? Then we have an audience. Who within that organization, which employees actually contribute towards that objective? Three is the content that's delivered to those audiences in service to that objective.
Hmm.
And then, but really for us, what we think differentiates a lot of what we do from what we see in the market, and I would say a more traditional approach to communicating and engaging with employees is what we call a call to action. Again, something that exists very clearly in the marketing and advertising world. And for us, it moves beyond internally, it moves beyond just this concept of I'm aware as an employee, I'm aware of that something's happening, or okay, I get that there's going to be a change to there's a very clear, concise, in our case, small action that I can take, whether it's day in and day out, once a week, at whatever point I receive this message, that can help me contribute towards this goal, right? It helped me work as an individual and as a team towards the outcomes that we're actually trying to achieve as a larger organization.
So give me an example of, and I think one I read about that I was very curious about is how these campaigns are helping improve safety performance in organizations. And that could include everything from reducing workmen's compensation costs to reducing incidents in a workplace. Tell me how it's impacting safety in a positive way.
Absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, we all, whether we work with our hands or work in front of computers, we all want to get home safe.
Mhm.
And ask any professional in the safety space, the safety field, the number one driver of incidences or injuries is human behavior.
Mhm.
And so again, in creating a connection to try to connect what the individual does in their experience to the larger outcome that is the organization's safety metrics, to their workers' comp, to all of the associated costs with safety, as well as the general value for the individual's experience and individual life. What we want to do is we want to help individuals do the right things. So
Mhm.
we have launched campaigns with some of our clients that are targeted at their on the ground, hands-on workers to help create a connection because the mothership, the like enterprise organization
Mhm.
doesn't have that daily connection with them. We use our campaigns to help them stay safe, to be mindful, and to maximize the chance that they do the right things so as to avoid, in this case, an unsafe outcome.
That's amazing. And I think that's something that every organization is dealing with. Like you said, it doesn't matter what role you have, everybody wants to create a safe experience. Now, I have to tell you, I was at a meeting, a couple months ago, maybe not even, but it was with the Center for Sales Leadership at DePaul University, and we got to talking about quotas. And there isn't a sales manager I know that is happy with quota attainment for their entire team. In fact, in my experience over the years and actually working in sales enablement, what I learned is that sometimes as little as 20% of the workforce in sales is actually delivering on their quota. And I was talking to some of the professors there, and what they said is that it's all about connection and coaching. And oftentimes, sales managers, don't have the time to connect and coach with everyone. And so, what you see is so it may start out doing pretty well during the onboarding, and then as there's less connection and less coaching, you see the quota performance decline. And I was excited to hear that Pro Habits has an approach to how you can increase quota performance. And I think every salesperson I've ever met or sales manager I've ever met would want to know that solution. So tell us, please.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think sales is a perfect example where when we think of success for a salesperson, a sales individual, it's this picture, this image. That's a good salesperson. That's what a good salesperson does. And it's not a single image, it's a mosaic. A good salesperson does a lot of really little things right. And those small things compound and build towards successful sale, fast conversion, towards continued growth and development and building of trusted and real relationships. And so when we think about running employee campaigns to support sales folks, really what we want to do is help those sales individuals and of course their managers, supervisors, and the team as a whole really to do those small things and do those right, right? And do those in a way that for us, another benefit is we're not talking about a training that takes you out of the market or a workshop or something where you're inspired and you've learned all these new concepts and techniques, and then you go back to your day-to-day grind. And there's no better term for it, right? And with that, we want to help people move from I've learned this knowledge, I've been inspired to I can take this individual action and I can do this one small thing right today, whether it's to make the hard call or to smile and dial
Mhm.
or to reach out to your manager for success. And I think you bring in a good point as a sales manager and supporting your team. I think we all want to be good managers, right? And it's hard for us and we can all fall down in that activity to try to support the teams around us because we all have our own pressures, life's moving fast, we have a life outside of work, right? And so we don't always show up as our best selves. And when we think about the use of employee campaigns, they can do two things to support the sales manager. One, they can help that individual sales manager actually show up as the best versions of themselves because they've been primed, they've been nudged, they've received a communication, just a call to action to actually do the right thing, to show up for their team, to check in. And because everyone has so much on their plate. What we can do is we can actually use these nudges to supplement and augment some of that development and growth that often relies on the manager and move it on directly to the employee. And we have studies show that whether an individual contributor receives a message directly from their manager, or if they receive a nudge from a system like ours or somewhere else, they take the coaching. It doesn't matter if it's coming from the individual or that there's just a coaching point from a system. They take the coaching. And so what we can do is where managers can sometimes fall short or create a gap between the development of their people, we can help to augment that in a way that doesn't take them out of the market and contributes towards acting, living, and breathing and building that mosaic of what is a successful salesperson. And then my last point on this is eventually, you don't need nudges because you've developed a salesperson. You don't need these campaigns because you've developed a salesperson that's acted time and time again and done those right things. And they've developed those habits and they will carry those with them throughout their career.
Or maybe you want to do different campaigns. I mean,
Absolutely. Well,
yeah, or
music to
maybe
my
you want
ears.
to
Yeah.
extend those campaigns. One of the things you mentioned at the beginning, and I don't want to lose sight of this, you talked about, we have hybrid teams and we have remote teams and we have mixed teams where they're, in office like 3 days a week now, and they have their own version of hybrid. And then we have teams where they're in person and people are quite unhappy about being back in person. And I want to understand, I think pro habits can build stronger teams and more connection, collaboration, and really peer support. How have you seen that in the market?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it takes place on two levels. We all start with something we're doing with one of our clients, which is supporting their onboarding program,
Hmm.
right? And so this client has employees who are on site, some who are hybrid, some who are fully remote. And so what we've done is we've used our campaigns to help them create really a unified and centralized approach to onboarding.
Hmm.
And so what we're doing is we're running campaigns that are oriented at creating connection between the individual, the new hires when they first start, and moving through sort of that organization's onboarding philosophy for the first 6 months as they continue to develop, perform, grow, and connect to those in the organization.
Hmm.
Right. But we know that the new hire experience, it's a 2+ way street, right? It's at least a 2-way street. And so at the same time as we're running those campaigns to help those new hires do the right things, quickly get up to speed and start to create value at a much faster rate than those who are not in campaigns, we're also running campaigns with their managers to actually create what we call a virtuous cycle or virtuous experience. So that as a new hire, if you're being nudged to create connection and to reach out to ask your manager who you should connect with within the organization or within your team, maybe the day before the campaign will send a message to your manager asking them who's really important to been really important to your career at the organization. Who do you think would be great to introduce to others? So that when that employee asks, they have a good experience, right? We're continuing to build those experiential blocks that create connection between the individual and their role, the individual and their team members, and the individual and the organization and their contributions to it.
I love how you bring this back to the manager. And I know when we first started getting into, well, what does remote work look like? Um, there was kind of a consensus in in organizations that managers didn't have a lot of experience with having to lead such diverse teams, in person, remote, hybrid, and that took a certain set of behaviors that not everyone had. And as I looked through the pro habit success stories, what I loved was that you are changing manager behavior for the better, leadership behavior for the better. I mean, I love, and I've told you this when I first read about it, I love the JetBlue story where changing leadership behaviors actually changed team performance. And that team performance had a material impact on the business because they were able to turn planes around faster at the hubs and they were able to have better customer experiences. So tell me about, and that's just one story. I know that there are other stories. So tell me about the manager and how you impact the manager in unique ways so they impact the team in unique ways.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it goes back to probably same story, different chapter than the sales
Mhm,
conversation we had,
mhm,
right? And supporting the sales manager. I think every day, everyone wakes up and tries to be the best versions of themselves, the best person they can, to help achieve their goals, individual as a team, and for the larger groups they work with. And we don't all succeed in that every day, right?
mhm,
There's so much going against us. There's so many moving pieces. And so what these campaigns can do, and specifically for managers, is really two things I would break it down to. One is to help to prime them, to prime their mindset, to help bring to the forefront what it is to show up well that day, right? And whether they're focused on being more empathetic, whether they're focused on a very technical, hard skill that they're learning and applying, it just brings it to the forefront so that they have a higher chance of actually doing the right thing, right? And at the end of the day, succeeding on their goals as an individual, and therefore on as a part of the teams that they're on. Then the second thing, and this is where I'll nerd out for a second,
okay,
is
okay,
with managers and most manager and general development programs, there's a lot of focus on knowledge and knowledge transfer,
mhm,
right? So I, as an individual, have learned something. I've learned a theory, which is great in theory, but in practice, there's a very real difference between what was said or discussed in a workshop and a presentation and what life looks and feels like in my day to day. And so what campaigns can do is they can bring those learnings to augment and supplement those programs, or oftentimes to replace them and say, well, take empathy as an example. I understand the concept of empathy. That's great. But I'm really stressed out today and I don't do the right thing. We can actually help those managers and say, well, let's practice empathy.
mhm,
Hey, today, before your team meeting, pause, take 30 seconds to go around the horn. Just ask the team how they're doing. Super small step, very clear call to action, not a disruption for the day, but that's what empathy actually looks like. And so now as a manager, I've experienced that. And I imagine I got a pretty good response from my team. And so that creates a virtuous experience. So now I'm more likely to do it the next time. And by the way, my team members, they've now experienced that manager do the right thing, which can contribute to the build and compounding growth of the culture in the organization with creating a mentor-mentee relationship and really like creating a new or an improved way of working within the organization. So, I mean, that's one example, and we could take it into infinite permutations in terms of how we can shift the manager experience.
So that's really a great story, and I think that will help organizations tremendously as they build leadership and manager capabilities. So, one of the things I heard you say, and I just want to briefly touch on this and then wrap up, is I think you had told me something to the effect of that Pro Habits is the only platform that uses campaigns. Is that correct?
It
Did
is,
I
yeah.
get that right?
You absolutely did. Yeah. I mean, we are very excited about where we're going and really where the field's going in terms of shifting the paradigm of how organizations engage with, support, and connect to their employees and create connection, not just from the organization to the employee, but create space for the employee to connect back to the organization and to connect with one another. And so as we've built this first employee campaign platform, the private employee campaign platform, we're just really excited about the opportunity to grow in the space. And I think it has so many different use cases, whether it's supporting and helping employees on their performance goals and development plans, as an example. We're able to really connect, and that's an example, I think, probably oriented towards the typical people in HR space.
Mhm,
Really, the difference is employees deserve to be treated like customers.
mhm,
Employees are the number one drivers of the outcomes the business cares about,
mhm.
whether it's a good customer experience, whether it's something being a project being completed on time, whether it's a shipping deadline being met or manufacturing deadline, whatever it might be. Um, we need to stop focusing just on the input, just on that. Well, I had a communications plan and I sent it. We need to actually orient and move towards, well, how can I connect the messages that I send so that they meet employees where they are and can tie that activity I'm doing to drive towards the outcomes that matter most. And then use that to learn about your people as well. You'll probably be surprised by what people engage with, what they don't, and how you can then use that to adapt, to learn, and to better manage your culture and ultimately your results as a business.
Tim, one of the things that I'm really excited about is that you've taken Pro Habits and you put it out in the market in a way where people can just try it out. And can you tell us about that? Because I think after listening to this, people would be interested in saying, well, how does it work and how can I use it? So how could they do that?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, as we said before, we are the world's first employee campaign platform. And so with that, we recognize there's an adoption curve, right? This is a new use and application of pre-existing technologies.
Mhm.
And so we just want to help people move along that curve as quickly as possible to solve for exactly what we're talking about.
Mhm.
How do we create connection in this disconnected workforce, this era of disconnection in the workforce? And so, yeah, if you can, for those who would love to try it, go to our website. There is a how we can help section. We've got a handful of topic areas there. Select one that is the most resonant and most relevant to you. And in that, there's a quick form, first name, last name, email address. We'll reach out. And the cool thing is, this is a low lift technology. It doesn't add to the tech stack. So everything we do, we can get you off and running in less than an hour. You can have you running a campaign. So we are
That
happy.
is amazing. That's really fabulous. Unfortunately, we are out of time for today. I want to thank Tim Bristow for joining us on HR Tech Talk. And if you want to learn more about Pro Habits, please visit prohabits.com. And I hope you want to learn more about 360 Insight, where we post information that can help you build your HCM capability. Again, I'm Pamela Stroko. This is HR Tech Talk, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Pamela. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.